Hello, this is Too Stubborn to Quit, a podcast made for women who aren't slowing down, staying quiet, or fading into the background. We're here for the bold, the curious, and the women who know that their best chapters are still ahead of them. So get your coffee or your car keys, because we're getting ready to hit the road and you get to come along for the ride. Let's go! Tonight on Too Stubborn to Quit, we're talking about a struggle that too many seniors face, going hungry because they're too proud or too private to ask for help. It's time to break that silence, fight the shame, and make sure no one is left behind. This week's episode is titled, Too Proud to Ask, Too Hungry to Ignore. So Linda, this is a fairly hard subject to talk about, but I think that it's a subject that we really need to take a look at. As we all know, anybody who has been watching the news, not living under a rock, knows that millions of Americans are having their food stamps, for lack of a better term, their SNAP benefits cut because of the budget impasse. And we need to figure out a way that we can all help our neighbors, to check on our neighbors, etc. So that's what we want to talk about tonight. Helping our neighbors who are vulnerable. And sometimes that helping them helps us, right?
Sometimes. So you were just sharing a story with me.
I was.
Before we, yeah. I think maybe, once you take a moment and share with everybody.
Well, I think what
your experience.
The stuff that was bothering me the most today, thinking about this episode, was that we have so many people who do rely on those food stamps. I have a cousin. She's 76 years old. She lives in low-income housing. She worked her entire life. But the job was retail. She didn't really have any benefits when she retired. And so now she has to live in low-income housing. She's single. She gets roughly $350 a month from her, and we'll call it welfare. And then she has to spend a portion of that on her rent, because in low-income housing you do not live for free. And then the rest is left for food for the month. And so she has roughly $200 a month left for groceries. And she has to pay her copays for her doctor's visits. She's 76, She doesn't have a lot of money left. And now if they cut the SNAP benefits, she'll have even less. So that's what's got me worried, because she isn't the only person like that in America. There's a lot of people out there who really need our help, and we can help them. An alarming statistic that I found is that roughly, according to feedingamerica.org, which we will get to in just a second, but roughly almost 500,000 people a day go hungry in America. That's about 1 in 12 older Americans. The most vulnerable are adults living alone, women, and those who live in rural communities. And so if you come to my community, we get the trifecta, because we're rural. There's a lot of women who live alone, so it's, and that would be my cousin. She's a female, older, lives alone, and is in a rural community. So it concerns me. I think that there needs to be some things that we can all do. Now, I did find there are some organizations out there that do help. And you touched on them a second ago, Linda, the American Red Cross, but they pretty much only do, not only, they are there to help, but mostly disasters. They are first on the ground. Samaritan's Purse also helps out a lot with that sort of stuff. But locally, St. Vincent de Paul, which is a Catholic organization, they provide food and shelter and clothing to people in need. Salvation Army, of course, and United Way. And then I found some national organizations, and I found something that I didn't know existed a little bit ago. So feedingamerica.org is probably one of the preeminent organizations that seeks out to send food to like food banks, etc. And of course, Meals on Wheels. I mean, a senior can get a hot lunch at noon ish delivered to them for like $2 a day. So that's not too bad when you're looking for, you won't go hungry, right? And they give you enough that you can have for dinner. But the thing that I found that I thought was kind of interesting is that if you call 211, just dial 211 on your phone, that number will connect you with, let me read it so I don't mess this up. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it connects you confidentially to a helpline available across the U.S. and parts of Canada to local community resources, so food banks, the organizations like St. Vincent de Paul. It gives food assistance, local food banks, pantries, Meals on Wheels programs, housing and utility support, transportation and health care services, and mental health caregiving and senior resources, all by calling 211. I thought that was pretty cool. It's powered by the United Way and a bunch of local nonprofits, so every call is routed to the nearest help center located for specific support. So 211.
So it's per region. 211 first, and then it is per region, or I don't know whether it be per town, but down where I live, I mean, it's a really small community, so I'm assuming that if I called that and I said, this is where I live, gave my zip code or whatever, they will
connect you
gather the resources for this region.
Yep.
And point me in the right direction to find food, shelter, housing.
Yep.
Just by dialing 211.
Correct.
That's perfect.
I know.
That is such a huge resource and to give people.
It's the United Way that is doing that nationwide. And so I think that is an important resource for everyone to know about. So that's if you need help.
To be honest, I didn't know until you told me tonight. Did not realize that was available.
Yeah, I think that's pretty neat. So that's for people who need the help. But I'm wondering if there isn't something that everyone else, you and I both still work. Lots of other people still work. If you're listening to this on your cell phone, you might still be working. We have opportunity here to help our neighbors, to help a total stranger to find, food, shelter, what they need. My God, maybe they only need $50 more this month just to make ends meet. $50 to one person is nothing compared to the person who actually needs it. And it's so important that we start sharing our resources, I believe. That's me. Yeah, that's where I was coming from.
No, I think you're right. I think it's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know you were talking.
So where do we want to step to? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know that you were talking about, you spend a great deal of time on the road and you see a lot of people who may or may not be homeless, but definitely present that way. And you were saying that you had seen one young man having some substantial difficulties. Why don't you tell us that story?
Yes, actually. Let me start by saying I think that over the years, like I told you earlier, we see so much sometimes that it's from one extreme to the other. It's beautiful, and then it's mind-boggling, crushing, soul crushing. But when I see humans not caring. And I'm going to try to actually tell this story and not burst into tears. I was coming home one particular trip, and it was right before Thanksgiving, actually. I'm coming up I-95, and I stopped into a gas station, filled up, and I was just getting myself organized for the rest of the trip home. And that particular vehicle, we carry a box of food that's relatively handy on the front seat for us. We carry things like bread and peanut butter and cans of soup and just easy things that you can snack on or make a quick meal with, because eating McDonald's or any of these other fast foods after a week or two on the road, it's just, you just gag. But regardless, so we carry food with us, and we made this a habit from for the last 22 years. You can't eat gummy bears every day, and that's a Jill thing. But anyhow, I'm sitting at the gas station, and I look over, and there it is packed going in and out of this gas station, and there's a gentleman who is literally looking through the trash can. And I sat there for a second because I actually couldn't believe what I was watching. And he's trying to be very casual about it. But in the meantime, there are all these well-dressed people coming. They're all getting off work. They're all in their suits. They're driving in with their Mercedes and their Lexus and their hybrids or whatever they're driving that day. And I know that at least 30 people walked past that man and saw the same thing I did. And I actually was disgusted of the human race at that moment. I actually could not believe what I was seeing. Not one person would make eye contact with this man. Not one person would reach out to him and say, "Hey, buddy, can I give you a hand?" Not one person. And these are the same people that I'm going to get on my high horse here now. I can't help myself. These are the same people that if I was to ask them, "Do you go to church on Sunday?" "Oh, yeah. I'm a good upstanding Christian." "Sure you are." That's why you just ignored that man. Because that's what Jesus teaches us. And yeah, sorry, this is my soapbox.
That's all right.
The very people that claim I'm a Christian are the very people that will stand there and say, "Well, what did he do to himself to put himself on the street?"
Does
So
that
long
really
story short,
matter?
I did finally. Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
No.
The guy's on the street, and he's
Right.
looking through a trash can for his dinner. So I did eventually go up, and I actually, to be honest, I sat there for a little bit because I didn't want to offend the man. But at the same time, I had resources sitting there, and it was like, okay, I want to approach him, and I know I don't want to upset him, and I don't want to offend him. So it was, after 10 minutes of sitting there contemplating it, it was like, okay, let me say something. So I did. I walked up and I was like, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" And the first thing he did was he stood up and looked at me and was like, What? "I don't need any help. I don't need any help." And I was like, Whoa, easy. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just offering. I said, "I got a whole box full of food on my front seat." I said, "I'm getting ready to go home. I'm actually getting off work. I'm going home. And when I get home, this stuff's going to be thrown out. Instead of throwing it out, I would like to offer it to you if that's okay. I don't need any help." And he got really kind of offensive. And it was like, "Look, I'm not trying to offend you, and I'm sorry if I am. But I have like a loaf of bread. I have a box of cereal. I have peanut butter, and I'm going home. It's the holidays and I'm going home." So, after a few minutes of kind of going back and forth, he agreed to come over, and he picked through the box and took what he wanted. And it was like, "Look, you take whatever you want that's in that box, And then I did stand there for a few minutes and just chat with him. "Do you have any family?" "Oh yeah, I got a daughter up in Michigan. I haven't talked to her in years. Do you have the ability to call her?"
It's okay. Keep going.
It's tough when
Yeah.
you see this day after day. month after month. And I've seen hundreds of people living on the streets.
Yeah.
And we have an asshole for a president who thinks it's okay to throw food away because nobody would eat it at his big gala because they had too much.
Yeah.
Where does our country, where have we gone? Kids, literally, sleeping in their cars, sleeping, mom and dad sleeping in the cars and they're trying to feed their kids. These are some of these families, they have jobs. They go to work all day.
Mm-hmm. And they still
And
can't
at night they
afford
pull up in truck stops.
Yep.
They can't afford the rent because the rents are too high, because corporations are buying up the housing. The apartment complexes that are being built are being bought up by places like Amazon. And that rent is going through the roof. These people can't afford to live. I told you about the lady last week when her husband passed away. She couldn't afford the rent. They jacked the rent up, forced her out. This is a common thing every day now. This is just not, this is America. We're supposed to be the land of the free, but nowadays, unless you're 30 years old and, they have this ego about them and the rest of the world can just go to hell in a handbasket. And it's like, I'm sorry, no, we're here to help people. At least that's what I've always been taught.
And I
up.
think that's where we need to come back to. I agree with you. We need to help people. And I truly believe that helping starts at home. If you have a neighbor that you know is in need of food, would it kill you to pack up a couple loaves of bread and some soup cans and things and take it to the neighbor? No, it wouldn't. Wouldn't break anybody, right? But to the neighbor, it might be like keep them alive. It's and it's just that caring portion of there's more to life than just yourself, right? It's we need to check in on people. We need to make certain that there are people who would be able. We just need to help. We can't just sit here and wait for it to happen.
You made a comment earlier about, and I do agree with you there. When you look at somebody and you go, do they really need it? And Jill and I have had this conversation. It gets a little heated, but does that person really need it, or are they going to waste what you give them? And not too long ago, I saw a lady on the street. Jill and I went and got breakfast to go, and a lady was on the street begging, and I was like, let me roll around there. And I rolled around and I said, listen, I said, have you eaten? And she's like, no. And I said, I've got an extra breakfast here. I'll share hers. I said, do you want an extra breakfast? Because again, I won't give money. I don't have it to give, but if I have something extra, I'm happy to give it. And she got a little shitty with me, but said, yeah, I'll take it. I said, okay. She took it and then sat it down on the ground. And I was pretty, my nose was at a joint. I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was upset. So we do run into that, who do you determine needs your help and who doesn't? And I think Jill basically hit it on the head. It's not up for us to decide.
That's what I was about to say.
If God gives you, if he leads you to do that, then you do it.
And the thing is, if it's about you giving to someone else, what they do with it is up to them. If you made the decision because God led you to make that decision, if you made the decision to help X, Y, or Z, then you made that decision, and then let it go. You shouldn't think about what they do with it. That isn't up to you.
And you say that because that is where my sticking point always comes in.
Yeah, I know.
You hit it. You did hit it. Yes.
I know.
Yes. I guess part of that's my upbringing. I mean, I had nothing growing up.
Right.
You know this. And when somebody gave me something, it kind of was like a prize,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so when I see somebody waste a resource, it automatically, let me use a terminology the younger generation understands. It triggers me. And it's like somebody just sacrificed for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So, and that's how I always, and that's how I've always felt. If somebody sacrifices something for you, then
Yeah.
be generous enough to either utilize it or
Say
say,
thank you.
listen, I don't really need this,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
say thank you
Say thank you.
and move on.
Be
And
gracious.
if you don't want it, don't waste it. Give it to somebody that will use it.
Right.
That's just, that's our generation, I think.
So, an interesting thing you said about that. So, you were saying about earlier about people living in tents, and we're going to get to that here in a second. I talked
Yep.
to, we were talking about the Salvation Army here earlier. We have a captain at our Salvation Army where I live here, and he told me a story about a year ago about a young man that he helped once. So this young man came in, and I hope I get this story right because it's been a bit since I told it. The young man came into the Salvation Army looking for some food. He said he wanted pop top soup cans because he had no can opener. So he wanted pop
Yep.
top soup cans so that he could make soup over the fire. And the captain asked him, well, where do you live? And he says, oh, well, I have a tent. And he took, so, the captain made up a box of stuff for him and handed it off. And he figured he'd never see him again, because they get a lot of people in like that. A few days go by, and the kid comes back. And the captain figures he's just back for more soup. And they had actually gone and bought additional Pop Top soup cans specifically for him in case he came back. So he loaded up a box and he handed it to him. And the kid says, I really want to thank you for this. Is there anything I can do for you? And the captain says, like, he says, anything. You've helped me so much in the last couple days. I just want to know if there was anything I could do for you. And the captain says, well, you know what? We just got a load of food in. If you could help us stock shelves, that would be really, really great. Well, they created themselves a relationship. The kid would come back every couple days, help them stock shelves, take some soup in return, and they did this for over a year. Well, the captain found out that he really was living in a tent about a half a mile away. That was his only home. They weren't sure how he was doing laundry or any of that stuff. One day, the kid comes into the Salvation Army, and the captain figured he was looking for food. When in reality, he came in and he says, I really need something nice to wear. And he says, well, why? What's up? And he says, I have a job interview. And so they went and they bought him a suit. And he went to his job interview. And of course, he got that job. And now I don't know what ever happened to him. He got the job. And that all started with a can of soup. He was able to get up on his own, do his own thing, came to them for help, offered help in return, and now he's off the street living his life. I mean, it all starts sometimes with just that can of
With just
soup.
a hand, somebody just offered a hand.
Just a
Just
can of
offer
soup.
that hand.
Yep.
Yep.
That's all it takes.
Yep.
We just all need to be able to give that can of soup. Now, I know there's all kinds of food drives, especially at this time of the year. There's food drives and there's backpack drives and there's this drive and that drive and the other drive. Some people are looking for winter coats. Some people are looking for winter hats. if you have the opportunity and you can do that, do it. Do it. Give generously. Don't kill yourselves giving, but if you could give just a can of soup, make it so. Make that
And make sure
happen.
it's a pop top. Make sure
And
it's a pop top.
yeah, yeah. And
Any
so
kind of, like tuna fish, any of those cans of meats or whatever, the
chicken,
proteins,
ham.
stuff that people can get protein.
Yeah.
Yes, make sure they have the pop tops, because yes, that's actually more of an issue than you know.
Yeah.
Only because we take stuff on the road, and I know the first couple of times we decided we were going to cook in our vehicles instead of eating out. And yes, we had a whole shelf of cans and not one can opener.
No can opener.
So you do not realize how much. It's like having a bottle of wine without a wine,
Oh,
without an
corkscrew. That's just sad, Linda. That is just
I
sad.
know.
For that
Drill
reason,
bits don't work as good as they
I
say.
always have a corkscrew. John makes fun of me. I have like
actually
five
have
of them.
I have a box of them too.
You never know when you might need a
That's on a
corkscrew.
lighter note. Yeah.
But you just said that you've done this whole cooking on the road. It looks like you might have this down to a science. Show us your gadgets, Linda. This is pretty cool.
Well,
so there are people that do live in their cars.
Yes, there is. There's a lot of people that live in their vehicles, or they work on the road. And the thing is eating out every day now is so expensive. So let me tell you about one resource first that Jill had come up with. And eating at a fast food place now for a family of four is going to cost you $45.
Oh yeah,
I know we went to the chicken place to get a box of chicken that used to be a common thing, and they wanted $45 for a box of chicken. I was about ready to offer them my chickens here in the field, thinking, man, I could make bank on those chickens.
Yeah, you probably could.
But let me talk about this one. And there's a Facebook page that, and this is she's verified, and it's called Dollar Tree Dinners. Now, not everybody has a Dollar Tree around them, but we have a couple here where we live, not right local, but close enough. And Dollar Tree, their stuff really is like $1.25.
Yep. They just raised the prices to $1.25. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So if you have a family of four, you can go to this Facebook page that's called Dollar Tree Dinners, and they have downloadable and printable cards. And what they are is they're recipes that you can physically buy at Dollar Tree for $10 or less to feed a family of four.
That's pretty good.
So you print these cards off. You go into Dollar General or not Dollar General. That's a whole different kettle of fish. Dollar Tree, and you can pick up these items, and they're guaranteed to cost you $10 or less to feed a family of four, which is huge. If you need to stretch your dollar, you have to remember, if you buy a bag of flour for the same price you're buying 2 loaves of bread, that bag of flour could stretch actually into making 15 loaves of bread or 10 loaves of bread. So, I know that we've gotten used to the reach and grab, easy to eat.
Yes.
And over the last 5 years, I've gone into homesteading, which, I never actually dreamed I would do. When I left Huntington, I was looking for the city life, and I ended up coming right back to the country life. And we do a lot of growing our own foods and dehydrating things. I dehydrate eggs for their future use instead of throwing them out. If you're looking for other ways to manage your food cost, these are huge ways to do this. If you can dehydrate, I've dehydrated bags of potatoes, and you can dehydrate them in your oven. You can dehydrate eggs. You can dehydrate any kind of fruit, vegetables. And the biggest thing is your packaging and sealing afterwards is they need to be airtight. And then they're good. I mean, you can pop them open later when you don't have something. And a lot of times I've dehydrated meat. I was eating beef jerky today. I buy beef jerky at the store. It's $12 a bag. I made it for about $3. I made a bag
Wow.
of it.
Cool.
So yeah, so it's looking at what you already have and stretching your resource, you know. So, all right, let me go into some of the gadgets that we do use when we're on the road and we're looking to make a meal as opposed to buying one. Let me start with the power source
Yeah,
first.
let's do that.
If you happen to be in a tent or a car, obviously you have to have a way to physically cook this stuff. So this is called a portable power station. And I don't know how well you can see that.
Pretty well. Yeah, real good.
All right. So the thing is, that should help you a little bit more.
Yeah.
These power stations, you can actually, they have the auxiliary power unit, like they plug in. We used to call them the cigarette lighters.
Yep.
Right there. Yep, right there. Okay. And that'll come in handy here in a second when I show you some of these gadgets I have. We can plug in our phones. You can actually plug in a regular plug right here. It's got two ports. So if you need to plug in something there, okay, this is a 500 watt. This is adequate for us most of the time. Occasionally it's not enough, but they do make smaller units. If you don't need a whole lot of power, you can use that. I use the plug-in port to plug in heating blankets. The same ones we use here in the house, old lady thing. Okay. So there's your portable power unit to start with.
So
Now,
let me ask you a question about that. How do you charge it?
Yeah.
Because
Okay. That actually charges three different ways. This particular unit, I can bring it in the house and charge it when I get home. Which means every time I go back out, then I have a full power charge. If I happen to use it at night, I might get up the next day, it might be like 50% left in the power unit. I can take that and plug it into an auxiliary unit right in my van. As I'm driving down the road, it's charging that.
oh,
So, and what that means is at night, I can shut my engine off.
yeah.
And I can still utilize that power pack to whether I can run fans or a small heat unit, okay, or plug in a heating blanket, okay. Or this is the other thing that is so great is I can also charge that with a solar power, a solar thing, a panel. We have a couple of solar panels that we have, some, and we charge different things, and some we just keep handy in case in case if there's an emergency, we need it. We can charge some of our stuff and still have power. So, let's say you are living in your car, or you're getting ready to, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, how am I going to feed myself?" All right. So there are some small gadgets here, and I have found these to be an absolute godsend. This is probably my favorite. This heats water. They say that you can cook soups and stuff in there, but I got to be honest with you, I don't do that because I want to keep that as clean as possible.
Yeah.
I use it strictly for water, okay? And when I showed you that auxiliary unit, this is why. Because you can physically make hot water, and this water is so hot that it peeled the skin off the roof of my mouth.
Oh my. So to describe that a little bit for the people that are just listening to this, so it kind of looks like a thermos with a handle.
Yes.
It's got a heating unit in it, and then it's got like the cigarette lighter plug on the end.
Yes. Yes. You can plug that right into your auxiliary power in your vehicle. Now, you do have to keep an eye on these. Now, this is something they're never going to tell you about this when you're buying it in the store. Okay. You do have to keep an eye, and it only takes like 15 minutes to get this. It bubbles. You can see it bubbling. If it's bubbling, technically, it's too hot to actually drink.
Right.
I
But
learned
it's
that the
okay to
hard
make
way.
ramen with because you got to bubble it,
It is. If
right?
you
You
need
got
it
to
to
make
make
that boil.
soups, oatmeal,
Yeah.
instant oatmeal,
Yeah.
instant eggs. They have all kinds of the instant stuff out there now
Sure.
that you can make with this. Okay.
Right.
I love this. I absolutely love this. I like to take that with me because to be honest, I don't buy coffee anymore. I take my own and I make my own in the morning.
Wow.
So that's a savings of, if coffee these days, buying a coffee in the morning is like $2 to $3.
It's not cheap.
And it's not. And so now I can make my coffee for 50 cents.
Yeah. Nice.
I love that. Let me move on to the next piece. This is exactly what it looks like. It's a cooking pot
Okay.
with a lid. Again, guess what it has?
So it plugs in to your auxiliary spot
Plugged in.
on your
Yes.
vehicle. And so it comes with a lid, and then on the bottom of that pot it almost looks like there's a built-in hot pad. Or
Yep.
hot plate rather,
It
hot
does.
plate to the bottom of the
Yes.
pot. And so tell us how that works there, Linda.
Well, once you plug this in, I think the last thing I made in this was canned ravioli. We were down in Florida. I was starving, and I did plug it into that. This did take a little longer to heat the food up, but it did eventually come to a boil. I mean, it's the non-stick.
You
But
can make
if you're
almost
wanting to make
anything in
like,
that, you know? I mean,
yes, instant mashed potatoes, good Lord, you can, yeah, like you said, you can make anything in this.
yeah.
So, there's lots of gadgets out there. I'm sure that Amazon probably sells something like this. A lot of this stuff I bought from truck stops, but
Oh,
they can be a little salty at the truck stop.
right.
So if you're looking around and get online and look at Amazon, they probably have something the same thing. But again, you can make anything with this on the road.
Neat.
You can be in a tent. If you have a power source like the one I showed you, that will cook a meal. Next, this is my all-time favorite.
Okay.
This is a Dutch oven.
Really?
Yes.
How's that
Now,
work? It looks like a
okay.
lunchbox.
Have you ever gone down the road and passed a truck driver and it smelled like food?
No, not really.
No.
No.
Now you'll think about it whenever you
You're right.
think. So what? Yeah. So what I do is I'll make a pan, and the little silver pans that they sell, the
Yeah. Like at Dollar
the
Tree
throwaway
too.
pans.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Okay. So like before I get ready for a trip, I will make multiple meals, and one of my favorites is meatloaf. All right.
Yeah.
And I just pre-make it. I actually don't pre-cook it. I freeze it then. And, again, I happen to have a refrigerator freezer in my van, so I just load that up. But again, you can take this, and if you have it in the silver and you cover it with a piece of foil, when you're ready, pop that in the Dutch oven, all right? Lock it down. And again,
So so you plug it into the auxiliary button. Does
yep,
that have like
yep.
a heat control on it?
No, it is a straight up. It's
So
just
it's one
turn it on.
temperature.
You just
Do you have
one
to
temperature.
do you
But
have to put any
right?
do you have to put any water in the bottom of it or anything? Or
Yeah. It depends on what you're cooking, but typically yes. Like if I'm doing my meatloaf, I make sure that I have a little bit of juice in the bottom of it to keep it from burning.
right.
But here's what I can tell you about this particular piece. Like if you can smell it, And then from the first time that you smell it, like count about 15 minutes and it's ready.
No kidding.
So usually, huh?
So how long does it take to
Yeah.
make a little mini meatloaf from frozen in that?
Um, Usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So
Really?
what? Yeah, what I end up doing is, I have to stop for fuel and walk my pets, and so about 4 o'clock, I usually stop and I give them, I fuel up and I give my dogs a walk that I have with me, and then I feed everybody their dinner. I take my dinner, I pop it in the Dutch oven, turn it on, and then I continue driving. And I'll drive until I can smell that, and I'll drive another 15, 20 minutes. And if I'm close to where I'm looking to be for the night, then I'll just unplug it. And by the time I get parked up, get everybody another bathroom break, my dinner is just perfect.
Huh.
And I literally pop it out. I either eat it right out of the tin, or I do carry bowls with me and silverware. It just depends on what you have available with you.
Well, you could even freeze the mashed potatoes. You could freeze the gravy. You could plop
Yes.
it all in there, right?
Yes, actually, we have we've gone into some of the dollar stores around the country, and we picked up things like a potato, a little bag of vegetables, whatever protein we're going
Yeah,
to have for the night. Just tipped it right into the pan, covered it with foil, and we have made bacon and eggs in the morning in those things.
that
We
is way
have cooked
cool.
a small cake in there. Yeah. Again, it's just looking at what you have for your resources and making it work. That's the biggest thing. And one last thing that I have now, obviously, I'm sure everybody knows about this, but I've got two of these, so I can take a moment. We lent this out to a driver, and I don't know that it came back like it should have, but okay. I don't know if you can see this.
Not
This
yet.
is a burner. Okay,
Oh,
it's just a little, yeah.
little
So if you're
propane
like in
burner.
a tent, yeah, it's a propane burner. It's a
Mm-hmm.
one thing burner, and they take these little cans.
Yep.
And again, we pick these up at the truck stop, but I think Walmart sells these.
Yep. In the
Okay.
camping section.
Um, yeah, I use this quite a bit on the road. If I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to sit and wait, you know, 2 hours to eat. Sometimes sometimes I just don't want to. I'm sorry, you get van or pets in the van that gets a little hairy, so you
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to. Yeah, so I take that outside and
Yeah.
sit in the back bumper and cook something up there, or go to a rest area and cook at a rest area. When we went to Alaska, that thing came in handy.
Oh, I'm sure.
But like I said, yeah, like I said, if you're looking for means to take what you have and just stretch it, so you're not eating junk food every day, these are some great resources, for
Yeah.
half the amount of money.
Right.
Literally half the amount of money. The initial layout's kind of expensive, but if you take care of them and you make sure that the elements don't get wet, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And some of them have fuses. You just change the fuse if they go bad, you know.
Okay.
But this is a great way
So
to
those
be able
are,
to eat yeah,
yeah, it's
without spending a
great
fortune.
tips.
Yeah, and it's just survival things that we've learned over the years.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we're not homeless. We
But
do
you
work
live
on the
on the
road,
road.
but we
Yeah.
live on the road.
Yeah.
Yes, and so
Absolutely.
you learn to adapt. So if you find yourself out there and you have to adapt, these are some of the different ways that you can do that without it being so soul crushing,
Right.
you know?
And I'll tell you what, we'll leave all of these resources in the show notes. so that you can find these things to buy and possibly even where to buy them. And yeah, so I don't know about you, Linda, but I've learned a lot tonight, and I feel that we still have so much more to do. But I'm willing to try, and I hope that everyone else is too. Again, we'll leave all of the resources in the show notes. So if do you have any last words there, Linda?
I'm so thankful that my life is where I want it to be. I don't. I feel sorry for the people that they find themselves in a position that they never dreamed that they would be in.
Right.
I hope some of the information helps them.
Me too.
I'd like to believe that I'm going to start being a bigger person myself and get over that. I have to admit, you've got a group of people out there that, and I find myself occasionally falling into that. I don't give easily. I'm freely. I'm not that kind of person. I really don't. I have to look at somebody and see that they really need it. That's just me. And I say that's just me, but I'm trying deeply to become a little bit better and let that into somebody else's hands. And so now when I feel that, I feel it's hard to explain, but it's like, I know it's God talking to me, telling me you need to do this, to be big enough to stand up and do it, and then just walk away and go, okay, I did what you asked me to do.
That's all you
and
need
not
to do.
expect anything.
Right.
That's hard to do. That is hard to
Sometimes
do.
sometimes very, very hard to do. Absolutely. But it's something I think is necessary. We all can still learn. That's the big key. I think that we are all still
Sure.
being used, and we can all still learn, and we can all still change. So, but if you need help, if anyone listening to us
Yes.
needs
Reach
help,
out.
there's a lot of resources out there for you. And if any part of tonight's episode,
211.
yeah, if any part of tonight's episode
211.
resonated with you, reach out. Remember, nobody should have to face hunger alone. Like Linda says, call 211. Reach out to your local food banks. Reach out to the United Way. Reach out to the Salvation Army, your local churches, St. Vincent de Paul, or simply share what you can. Every small act matters. Remember, it was only a can of soup. One can of soup changed a life. So you too can change a life. So remember, feedingamerica.org, Meals on Wheels, America.org, or call 211. And if you thing is, you've spent your lifetime helping others, so now it's time to maybe allow somebody to help you.
Let somebody help you. Yeah.
Yep. So till next week, we
Sure.
appreciate you listening to this episode. It's kind of a deep one and kind of a sad one, and not nearly as much fun as we normally have, but I think it was necessary. Please help when you can and where you can. And for us, if you could help us, we'd appreciate a review on your favorite podcast venue. Shoot us a like, a comment, follow, subscribe on YouTube. All of those things really help us to keep this little podcast on the air. So we appreciate you listening, and we appreciate you being a part of our lives, and we hope you appreciate us being a part of yours. So until next week, we thank you very much, and take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.